we just had to work it out. It wasn't one of the options that we were prepared for, but we managed to work it out. So what the paper is currently proposing is what's been built into the draft fees and charges is the 30%. So the current recommendation is saying to reduce down to 15, which has an impact on revenue of 158,000. These rental agreements renew 1 November, so the paper doesn't say 158. The paper says 100,000 because it's 8/12 of 158. So what's been asked, what is the impact if you wind it right back to just 2.9%? So sorry, it took a little bit of time to confirm and work it out. So what the impact is it's going from the 30% to option 1, no increase, the table we've seen. So that has an impact of 97% occupancy of 319,000. But again, that's an annualised amount. So we have to calculate 8/12 of that. So if you were to revise the fee to just an LGCI increase, you're going to increase rates revenue by $213,000, which is 0.23%. So sorry, it just took us a little while to work through that.
Okay. Okay. I'm just finding the page. It's the schedule of fees and charges. Where are the recommendations? I've lost them.
Let's have a look.
I've got it.
Page 40.
Yeah. Okay, so Martin, are you wanting to move these recommendations with a change to them under older persons housing?
Yes.
What should it say instead?
We can tell you.
Thank you.
I'm just waiting for my agenda to open. There we go. Page 40. Okay. So can I give you the new number? So this is recommendation C.
BC 1 and 2.
C number 1, individuals' weekly rent reduced from 234 not to 208, but to 181.
Yep.
Couples' weekly rent reduced from 347 to 263.
Is that what you had in mind, Councillor Halliday?
I'm sorry, there were jalapenos on the last page. I'm sweating here. Apologies for that. And I've got a little bit out of whack with my information. I didn't have a figure as such. I figured that it would be put into the, when you talked about the number, it would be put into the chart that we've got here on page 12, which would then give us the figure, so to speak.
We'll do that.
As such, but fundamentally, I think I've got confidence in that I explained it and you've been able to do that. So
So if I could just step you through what the report was doing was the report's currently sitting on the 15% gross increase, so it's going reduced from 234 to 208. Now we will go from 234 to 181, which gives us that increase on rates, which is 8/12. So we've just corrected the paper to say from 234 to 181 for singles, individuals, and from 347 to 263, which then equates to 213,000, which will be in that table.
And sorry, through you, Madam Chair, just clarifying the rates. The fees increase that the measure that we use, that had already been applied to the situation. Is that correct?
The LGCI of 2.8 had already been added.
So in effect, at zero, it's still a 2.9% rent increase, which is fine.
Yes.
And that's what's up. But that's how it was picked up. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so are you wanting to move those recommendations with those new figures in them?
With that alteration in them, yes.
Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Rob Coford. Right of introduction?
No.
Yep. Or questions? Let's have some questions. Nigel?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, on
40.
page 40. Should that more accurately read, individuals' weekly rent increase reduced from 234 to 208. Now that number is down to 181. Because if people just read this, they might think, oh, what a wonderful council, they're actually reducing the rent for these wonderful people. And just in terms of the language, I wasn't around in 1782. I may well, people might think that, but 8/12 is an interesting number because it's kind of also equals 2/3, right? Which is kind of easier to, or 66% for those people who were born after 1960.
66.6 recurring.
If you want to go with 8/12, Ebenezer.
Okay, next. Shelley.
The amount that was already there, is that work in the 30% of affordable housing? Does that sit with the 30%
Can
of
we have that table back up,
the
please?
first amount? And I'm just wondering if we keep it really
Yes.
low
Yes, it does.
and then a chip comes in and actually charges 30%, the 30% threshold, they're going to be shocked by the increase rather than a gradual increase.
Yeah, so my understanding from the table is that the no increase, which includes the LGCI of 2.9%, has an affordability of 27.2, so it's below the 30% threshold. Yep. Chris.
I think Shelley might have been asking about the rent increase now in comparison to if, when this is transferred to an entity. Effectively, two things. One, you won't be able to control necessarily a rent increase that they propose. And two, they will have access to subsidies that this organisation can't access. So we'll be in a different starting position as to what they're able to offer. The benefit of obviously transferring this into another entity was that it would help to offer a more affordable position for our tenants who are most vulnerable.
Glenn.
So if I heard rightly, Mark, the decrease in percentage that's been proposed, that will go straight onto rates,
Yes.
and that's about 0.25%, just short of 1/4%.
Yes.
Okay, so it's right. So essentially, is what we're saying is we're asking the community to take 11.88 average at this point, but it's going to get higher, over 12%. So we're going 12.01. So the ratepayers are further subsidising the older people's housing.
Yes.
More so than.
No, they're not further subsidising. Okay, they are already subsidising. The case is we were talking about adding, if you like, a 30% rent increase to our older persons' housing. That's what we were looking at doing. So we were going to increase the rent up to a certain level. We're not doing that now, and that keeps us under our 30% threshold. We're increasing it by 2.9%.
I think it was seconded.
So this has been moved and seconded, and we're kind of in debate, so any questions should
Oh,
be
sorry.
directed at staff.
Well,
Otherwise,
it was a question. It was a question to Mark, not to.
yeah,
right.
so Mark,
question?
yeah, Mark should have answered that question.
Yeah.
But Mark, do you agree with Martin's analysis of the facts?
Yes, yes,
No.
yes. It's already subsidised by
Yeah, no, I understand that.
ratepayers.
I understand that.
What we're saying is the original proposal, when council adopted the draft fees and charges for the consultation period, there was a 30% increase to the accommodation rental. So we're saying clawing that back. So we're clawing it back. So that's why the table is saying, so at 30%, there is no impact on ratepayers. We're effectively increasing the private subsidy. Now we're clawing that back to not 30%, but a 2.9% increase. So we are increasing rates by not 319, but it's 2/3, 8/12 of that. So we are increasing the rates revenue requirement by 213,000 by clawing it back from a 30% increase to a 2.9.
And if we don't want that to happen, we vote against Martin's
Yes.
motion. Okay, thank you.
Well, actually, we'd have to take them separately. If you don't want it, I suggest
want
you move an amendment with a different amount in 1 and 2, like you could go back to what's in the paper. Because this has now been moved and seconded. Chris?
Sorry, I just want to clarify. The comments about rent are true. We're operating at a loss. So by not putting the rent up, we've got a bigger loss that we're continuing to maintain, and that has been covered by ratepayers.
Can I make
So
wanna say
Coops, it's still going.
So you were saying the appropriate to getting it back up would be to make an amendment
Yeah.
to the amendment
Yes, so you'd make an amendment back to,
to
actually
status
got
quo.
a bit messy now because we've moved something different. Now we're making an amendment back to the normal one. Yeah, but what's on the table and has been moved and seconded isn't what's in the paper. It's the lower number. So what you'd do is you'd move an amendment to what's on the table to reflect what's in our council agendas if you want. to
Okay,
do it.
could I do that, please?
Yeah, do I have a seconder for that? So we'd be subsidising less? I mean, yeah. Okay, Shelley's seconded that. So now we've got an amendment back to what's in the paper. Sorry, it's so messy.
I hate to get all technical about this. There might be someone. There's a lot of people smarter than me in the room. I'm not sure that you can move an amendment that takes you back to the original motion.
But the original motion isn't what's in the paper. The original motion which was moved is something else.
No, but that's an amendment.
No, it wasn't an amendment. It was a substantive motion that was moved, which was different to what's in the agenda. Yeah, the staff recommendation was never moved.
Okay, so the amendment that Glenn's talking about
Is
isn't-
taking us back to the recommendation, but that's not what was moved. Yeah. So Martin moved something different, the lower figures, which I don't know offhand.
So can we
and
know
now we're
what it
moving
is
an
that
amendment,
Glenn's
so-
moving us to?
Yeah, so now we're debating the figures that are in the paper, which is the amendment. So I should have asked somebody to move what was in the paper really, rather than letting Martin move something different. My bad. Shelley?
So Glenn's one is 15%, is that correct? Yeah, okay. So it's a comment rather than, so my comment is that we're putting the rates up for normal ratepayers who are, a lot of them, beneficiaries on limited incomes. And then we're expecting them to further subsidise people. I know these people are beneficiaries, but it's kind of like we're taking from the poor to support the poor. And I don't know, to me, it seems like we're just taking from one group of vulnerable people to support. So I support Glenn's thing, I think, leave it. We can't keep subsidising it.
Yeah, I'm going to support the amendment back to what's in the paper. I think it strikes a good balance. I don't think we can afford to throw endless things into this long-term plan at the last minute, and we've already added quite a lot today. So, yeah, and there's access to rent subsidies and things like that. So I'll be going with the amendment, which is the figures that you see in front of you in your papers. Glenn, you'll have a right of reply after we've finished debating this. Nigel?
Yeah, I'm assuming that the people who are in that rental accommodation are getting the maximum subsidies that they can get already. A question around so the couple's weekly rent. Do they have an extra room in their house? No. So
Sorry, I don't know. I don't
Okay.
know if the answer is no.
Yeah.
I'm unsure.
Yeah, let's assume that they don't, which I'm pretty sure they don't. So what we've got is we've got two people having to use the space instead of one, but we charge them more because it's I don't understand that actually. What would be the difference if there were 10
I
people
think that's
living in there?
it's a little bit off topic and something we need to look at maybe later. I don't think we can sort that out today. Can we
Okay,
not bring
but
up
can I
things that we
ask
can't
what's
sort
the-
out today?
So before I support
Please.
or reject Glenn's, so what is it? So I've written down a series of numbers here. So what are the numbers that that we're talking about?
The ones that are in your agenda. We've gone back through the amendment. We've gone back to what's in the agenda on page 40.
Okay,
which
so
is
234 and 347.
234 to 208, 347 to 305.
Right.
That's
Okay.
what we're debating right now.
And that's a 15%.
Yeah. Right of reply, Councillor Cooper. I'm not seeing any more lights.
Yeah, I won't wax lyrical. All I'd say is that everyone's finding it hard out there. I concur with Shelley that we're asking our ratepayers to further subsidise older people's housing that's already heavily subsidised, and our ratepayers are being smacked with an average of whatever we land on, 12% or thereabouts. And if we reduce the increase to negligible, then I just don't think that's fair or equitable. So I propose 15% is fair.
Okay, so we're now voting on the amendment to take us back to those 208 and 305. All in favour? Aye.
This is an amendment to my.
Yes. To take us back to the figures that are in the paper.
Okay, rightio.
Yep.
And do we get to speak to that? Oh, so we've
You've
just
had
gone.
your chance to speak to it. Glenn's just had his right of reply. I didn't see any lights on.
Right, okay.
But if you want to speak to it, is that okay with the mover? Yep. If
Yep.
you'd like to say something, go right ahead.
Unfortunately, I've lost my momentum in this space with the break we just had. So bear with me, please, just for a little bit. I had a cup of tea with these people, I don't know, a month ago. We went around and had a chat with them. And I was asked point blank, are you going to be putting our rates up? We heard that... I haven't heard anything about that. No, of course not. And I had a cup of tea with these people, and they were worried. They were worried. We're going to put our rent up by 30%. I said, I haven't heard anything about that at all. As far as I'm aware, it'll only be going up by your CPI as per normal. And then to be told by officers after that, no, that is what's happening. So I'm good faith. There's no way in heck I can support a 15% because I spoke to those people and said that to them. That aside, we gave these guys, there was a substantial rent increase 3 years ago in this space. And we've increased it each time over the last 2 years as well. Is it subsidised? Yes, it is. This is why we're moving it into a chip. The longest this will stay is more than likely, I don't know, a couple, maybe 3 years tops before we potentially move in. I don't know. We haven't made the decision what that looks like. And there will be funding potentially tied in with all that as well. Don't know what that looks like either. But these are our vulnerable people. These are the ones that we've made a commitment to with our older person's housing. We've only just upgraded this housing after 30 odd years with regards to bringing it to the healthy home standards as well. Where this figure leads us to a person having a room for about this space for about $208 and a couple about $300. My daughter is paying less than that for her rent and she's fully employed. So I consider these people to be our most vulnerable. They're on the pension. They don't have savings. Otherwise, I wouldn't be in this space. It's as simple as that. We are doing something to change this equation shortly. They will not be any better or worse off through that process. In fact, they might be a bit better off. So I have no compunction around decreasing the or not. We're not decreasing. That's the thing. We put 30% in the document, and we factored that in to our rates increase. Okay, so we factored in 30% and went out to consultation, and then coming back, we're not decreasing anything. We're just taking it back to the status quo of where it currently sits. Other aspect I've got around this is that the last long-term plan, we, as part of the decision to put this up, and it was a significant increase, percentage-wise, we asked that, okay, if that's the case, we were told that this would be offset by the accommodation supplement. And our council officers have been doing that, but they haven't been doing it to everybody. And that's caused, and the assurance was made to us at the time that it would be, that our people, that any tenants there would be handheld through the process, because a lot of them didn't really understand what the process and how it worked. And we actually had an example of that at the Kapiti as well, because there was a gentleman there that had gone in to get an accommodation supplement. He had ticked the box that he was in social housing, which means that as far as the government's concerned, you're getting funded. He wasn't. He's in community housing. And they turned him down. And we
Okay,
didn't hold his
Martin,
hand through that
can
process.
Can you wrap it up now, please?
Yep. I've got no, yeah, so that's my argument. I guess this will now fall as it does. I've said my bit. Yeah.
Okay, I'll now put that amendment to the table. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? So all in favour of the amendment to what's in the papers, please say aye. Aye. Against? No. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's carried. I mean, no, it's not carried. It's not carried. Not carried. Not carried. So we go back to the substantive motion that Martin moved, which is the figures that you see with no increase. All in favour? Please say, well, I don't think we need any further debate because we kind of debated the amount. That was the main thing. And this is also the whole higher, the whole gamut. A, B, C. Any debate around any of that? This is moved by Councillor Halliday, seconded by Councillor Coford, I believe. All in favour? Aye. Against? It's carried. Oh, a couple of people against, but that got carried. Anybody want a division? Please no. So we're going back to 7.1 now to approve a slightly higher rate rise.
Yes, so I think we laid S and T on the table. And then we probably need to throw your table off on the
Can you give me a page number, please?
Oh, sure, it's page...
We're now going back to page 7. Right, because we had to park S while we discussed this proposal, which has been carried through. So we've got a figure to go in there now with that no rent rise for the older person's housing. I can let the chip put it up, maybe.
Would you mind if we just quickly run through the table?
Yes, absolutely run through the table.
I just want to make sure that everyone's on the same page. So obviously the draft rates increase after growth is now sitting at 12.01%. Just making sure we've reflected what was decided on today. So we've taken $4.7 million out because that will be funded by debt in year one, and it's reduced rates. We've agreed to 1 year funding of $30,000 to Te Ara Karawai. We've agreed to $35,000 single year funding to Citizens Advice Bureau. the fees and charges paper that we've just done, reverting the haul hire fees to the current year plus LGCI as an increase in rates of 63,000, and then the older person's rental with only an LGCI increase has just increased rates by 212,000. So we've gone down, we've gone up, and we've got some higher growth. Our growth is sitting at 1.09% to give 12.01. So the table should capture everything that was, well, it does capture everything that was voted on today so far.
Okay. So the figure we've got in S is 12.01. Does somebody want to move that? Moved by the Deputy Mayor, I'll second it. Right of introduction? Any debate? Question?
Can I go first?
Oh, sorry, Sorry, mate.
I'm sorry, I have to. What happens next in terms of numbers?
Numbers?
Year 2, 3, 4 in terms of rates rises? Because
So what we've passed today is at the bottom of page 27 in the
Okay.
consultation document.
okay, so it's outlined in that plan. Okay, cool. Really? Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
No.
Yeah, Nigel?
Yeah, so the interest cost on the 4.7 million, you are not adding any of that into that first year? You're not adding any costs at all in that first year?
Is it in?
Because I wondered if there might be some of that would need to be.
Sorry, Mike. So sorry, councillor. You're absolutely right. So sorry, it's sitting over there. It's actually my apologies. We are adding that full interest in for the year. So it's an increase of 0.24. So it's not 12.01. It's 12.25. My
Okay.
apologies.
So the mover, Deputy Mayor, are you still happy to move that 12.25? I'm happy to still second it. Nice pickup.
And so just a question, because the eternal optimist refuses to die, and like I say, a week's a long time in politics. The optics around this, should there be any prospect that there might be a change to this, and there is at least that, somewhere in the wording, I think it would be helpful to emphasise that this is a draft to be finalised at the time that it's to be finalised. Because, again, if the media were to go off prematurely on this and start announcing this 12% rate rise from Kapiti, and then it was to change a week later, it would look like the Keystone Cops, and it would be bad news followed by worse news. So if that was somehow reflected,
Well,
I think it would be helpful, because I think it would be unhelpful to have the opposite of that.
can we vote on this, and then
Yeah.
I've got another proposal that I want to put on the table. All in favour? Aye.
Aye.
Against? That's carried. So I was actually thinking that this is probably the biggest decision that we make as a council, and we have two councillors who aren't here. So particularly in terms of the major decision about our future finances as a council. So I am actually suggesting, and it's kind of my decision because I'm the chair of the meeting next week, that we bring back B and C for further discussion with all of the councillors present. I mean, I might decide that I support it.
Can
Who knows? So the motion is to note that items B and C will be brought back to the next meeting of council to be discussed with all councillors present. So it's clear why we're doing that.
Can I just make a comment on that?
Yeah, sure. I'm
And,
floating it.
and
I
this is
haven't
not-
moved it. I'm
This is
floating
just my thinking. The table's a table, and if people chose not to be here for whatever reason or can't make it, it just seems to me we've made the decision, rightly or wrongly, he says, and it just smacks of, I don't know what the right word is, but to get two people in the room who we think might sway the decision to, you know, is it a bit smelly, or I'm not saying that I'm trying to be rude, I'm just trying to vocalise that is this democracy, we don't like it, so get some more people in the room.
So it's
I don't know.
it's not actually the only consideration. The fact is that once we have everybody in the room on LTP day, this could get overturned. And then that would be a really difficult situation to be in. So I would prefer to confirm it absolutely ahead of that day. That's kind of more what I'm saying. Not that they haven't had a fair chance to be here, but just that they will be here when we make the decision, and they're going to be put in a position where it's the ship's kind of sailed, and it has happened to councillors before. Long-term plans have been voted down, and it's not a pretty picture.
No, I'm happy to second that. I just wondered about in terms of process, given that Lawrence moved the motion, amendment, whatever was passed was moved by Lawrence and seconded by Glenn. Or Martin, sorry. So I'm assuming then that will they get to introduce it? So, because you've got to kind of start with something,
Yeah.
don't you? We can't ignore the fact that there is already a motion that's been passed. So presumably the mover, and does it require the assent of the mover and seconder of that motion? Just being a bit technical here. It doesn't? No, it doesn't. So that's cool.
Well, we
getting
could
the
agree
shape.
to that anyway. We could just bring the same mover and seconder back with the same motion. Yes,
Can I comment?
yes, please. Please do.
Since it was me that put the cat amongst the pigeons. I think I'm happy to go back for that bigger discussion, because what I don't want is us to be in a position where the LTP doesn't get passed. And I could say, hand on my heart, that I was surprised to see that motion passed today.
Okay, so Shelley said she would second the what's in front of us is that council notes that items B and C will be brought back to the next council meeting for further discussion with all councillors present. Next week, isn't it? I mean, it might put us a little bit behind schedule, but it's going to be way better than being behind schedule on that final day.
Don't want to be picky and churlish, but in terms of that, in terms of the wording,
Everybody would need to come, right?
so it would be all councillors who are present at that meeting. So if someone isn't
Yes.
there, you can't not have the meeting. So it's just for councillors
Who are present at that meeting. That's a great
present.
idea. I will accept that. Yeah. So I've moved, Shelley's seconded. I think I've said why I want to do it. I've kind of had my right of introduction. I wanted to float it before I moved it though, because I do know it's a little bit unusual. I don't think any are on planes, which is what happened today. We can only hope. And if we just have the same group around the table, now that Nigel's made that suggestion, we just have the same group around the table. It also gives people a little bit of more time to get their head around it.
Just a question.
And work
can we,
out
can we
what's going to
actually
happen.
can we do this? Is this like we can? Don't need to seek some advice whether it's kosher. We can do it. Okay. Well, amendments and motions are binding. Absolutely.
It's binding unless we bring it back. It's binding, yeah. But the long-term plan, it could still get voted down at the meeting when we decide on the long-term plan though. It's is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, so, yeah, anyway, I've moved and seconded. Did you want to say something, Mark? We're kind of in debate.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
that'd
you.
be good.
Thank you, Richard. So next week you'll reconsider it. At the moment, it is binding. You have voted on various things to reconsider. In the meantime, we have to prepare this document for audit, who are actually expecting it tomorrow, and their whole team is here on Monday. And they have to do their testing to get it to the OAG. So we will proceed based on what you have voted on, and then come next Thursday if you change, and we'll communicate that to audit. Come next week Thursday, if you change it, we will have to change it again. But we will. I'm just trying to say it is binding, and we will update the long-term plan on what you've decided today. And if you decide something different next week, then we'll update it again. But we'll work with audit to make sure that's happening. That's the point of the deliberation meeting today. So we do have until the 27th of June. Thank you.
It's a bit painful, isn't it, actually?
I was just thinking a question for Mark is, so in that situation where not in anticipation of a change, but in anticipation of the possibility of a change, first of all, I was thinking that you could actually prepare, you know, two sets of numbers, but that presupposes that it's a blanket thing as opposed to if we get back into tweaking.
It's not unheard of. Some councils in the midst of Three Waters prepared to.
Yeah, we'll. Yeah, look, we will obviously, if audit haven't been on the live stream, we do have a meeting with them tomorrow, so we'll talk them through that. We may have to start modelling double numbers. The steer today was on the 12% debt funding, so it's option of change proposal 1. It was option 2. We'll do that, and what we'll try and do is we'll bring back. I think with C, there were lots of questions that were asked as what is the impact on the financial strategy. So if we have to run 2 numbers, we will try and bring back a few scenarios on how this impacts the financial strategy, because we probably have to do that anyway. It's so just to clarify, I'm sorry to be a broken record, but we are going to work on the basis that it is change proposal 1
I think we've got
to
that.
debt fund, so it's 4.7 each year for 10 years. Okay.
Yeah, that's what we passed today. Shelley?
Will we get any information on raising the rates the following years from year 1 and smoothing out to be able to pay that debt down or off? And so we're not doing 17%, but we might be doing 12 and 10 and
So
I don't know, it's all bad.
So thank you. No, we've consulted on 8, 7 or 6. So we can show you the impacts of 8, 7, 6. If you go out with 12, that I could hand on heart say the OAG would have an issue with that.
Lawrence?
Just saying if things change, we will be 17.19, 7.19%. Just saying. With all the additions that we've voted for tonight. So bringing back B and C, this is my comment, bringing back B and C, potentially you'll want to revisit all of the others. Just a comment.
Yeah,
I still think we need to do it. I do. I think yeah, we need to do a little bit more work. So I'm going to put that. All in favour, please say aye. Sorry, your light just went on, didn't it?
I think Glenn's was on.
Oh, I just, I
sorry.
thought we were going to questions. I thought we were going to debate, but that's cool.
Sorry, we have been asking questions, but it's been moved and seconded. We've been asking questions during the debating time. It's all a bit, you know. If you've got something to say, go right ahead.
I was going to say, I agree with what Coop said.
What did Coop say? Okay, all in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, that's carried.
Against, this is against?
So hands up for, hands down against, hands up for.
Oh, so we've got the mayor, councillor Warwick, this is for?
Hands up who is for the motion. Sophie's not in the room. It's just a noting recommendation. You're not actually deciding whether to bring it or not. It's a noting recommendation because the chair decides what goes on the agenda.
Councillor Wilson.
Do you sure you want?
Deputy Mayor, Councillor Wilson, Councillor Warwick,
Is for.
Councillor Cockford. Mayor, Deputy Mayor. You got 5.
And against? Raise your hands. Councillor Spies, Councillor Cooper, and Councillor Halliday.
And this is 7.3, 7.1U, is it? Whichever that one is. So sorry.
Yes, it's 7.1U, and I'm not going to bother with the other U. We'll just take that as read that we're going to do that. So we're on to
5.3.
So we're on to the minutes, page 86. We've got 2 sets, 2nd of May, 7th of May. Do I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Wilson, seconded by Councillor Warwick. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, that's carried. And now, can I have a mover that we go into public excluded? No. I'll move that we go into public excluded, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. That's carried. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Nobody can leave the room because we'll lose our quorum. Thank you. Apparently we need to do this today.